Here now is Fox & Friends weekend co-host Pete Hegseth. Pete, great to see you, my friend. This is a tough story. The Biden administration would love it if we forgot about it, but it is obvious in Afghanistan the problems are mounting. Talk about what's happened in this intervening month.
The Taliban has been the Taliban. There is no Taliban 2.0. We knew they would consolidate power. We knew they could not tolerate anyone who had worked with us, especially actively and aggressively. I mean, anyone who's still there is potentially a U.S. asset in their minds, which means they have to find them, hunt them, and kill them. So many of the people that tried to leave burned their documents. Those that stayed burned their documents. But there's enough lists, enough biometric data that if you're trying to find the people who are truly allies of Americans, eventually you will, and you'll use hostages and threats to do so. Jennifer's so right to point out, and this got missed a lot, and a lot of Green Berets I talked to emphasize it. These commandos never stopped fighting the Taliban. They were there to the very end. A lot of conventional Afghan forces gave up their weapons. That's true. The commandos fought to the end, 7,000 or so, only 700 of which made it to the United States because they weren't applying for visas. They were fighting. Yet they were left behind, and they're trying to find pathways, a lot of these private veteran organizations, to get them in. And the confusion, Brian, the utter confusion and chaos of the early days at the Kabul airport is ultimately a part of the huge problem. A lot of people were let in, vouched for, who had really had a tacit connection to the American mission, yet the SIV holders, the U.S. citizens, and the commandos, who are the true allies, often were forgotten and left behind, and they're the ones being hunted.
Pete, you called it a deal with the devil a few weeks ago. I'm looking at what's going on there now. I got to believe you'd be willing to double down on that statement at this point.
Absolutely, and the devil's in charge. We made a temporary deal with the Taliban. Because of the decisions the Biden administration made, we were stuck in that position, which means the deal with the devil before becomes an even more tenuous deal with the devil going forward, and we don't have any leverage. Now they have hostages. Now they control the media. They control who has access to government positions, and it's not women, and it's not people who work for the United States, and it's certainly not our allies. So over time, using the equipment and the biometric data we have, the devil will use that in the Taliban. Islamists who have not changed their stripes one bit, don't believe it for one second, working with the Haqqani, working with the Al-Qaeda directly, are consolidating that. And every minute, every moment that we wait longer to get these people home is a moment they're much closer to killing them. And that's why groups like Operation or Task Force Pineapple and others are working as best they can with the DOD. The State Department's still basically missing in action to try to help them over land or over air to get out.
Pete, really quickly, you talk about what's happening on the ground there every day that goes by. How does the terror threat grow? What is it that's happening in country right now that ought to be a concern to Americans watching this?
Our connections and our human intelligence on the ground erodes every day that we don't have access on the ground. And that started on the day all of our boots left, and it continues now, and any assets we did have are being targeted even more so. That drone strike that killed civilians was a product of signals intelligence, not tied up with human intelligence on the ground. That gap's only going to get wider, making it harder to target our enemies as they gather.
Sobering stuff, Pete. Great to have you on today, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Brian. You got it, man.